Nice to meet you.
Pleasure. So, as you've already heard, the League of Women Voters is going to run tonight's Meet the Candidates event for us. Candidates, we're very glad you're here. It's an important thing to be a candidate for a school board election anywhere. You all know how seriously we take education here in Carle Place and how much care everyone here has for their community. The League of Women Voters is dedicated to making sure that we have an open forum, that everyone's voice is heard, that we follow a protocol that ensures that that happens. We're very grateful for you to be here tonight, and we're looking forward to learning a lot about what everyone's position is on the important issues to Carle Place education. So Ms. Esterquist, I'll hand it back to you and say thank you very much for being here for us.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And we always love serving Carle Place, as many of you who've been here multiple times know. So it's also nice to meet a new face, and I hope he's being really effective for all of you. So my name is Judy Esterquist. I live in Manhasset. I am a co-moderator with Katie Hangley tonight. The two of us will be doing it. She also lives outside of Carle Place, because if you vote in a jurisdiction, you do not moderate in a jurisdiction in order to keep it as objective and fair as possible. So for more than a century, the League has been holding forums like this so that voters can learn about candidates. We asked all the candidates to sign our procedures, which they have, and we posted the procedures on the door back there, and you can look at them, and over here. But they've all agreed to them. And it's procedures like this, which are bureaucratic and processy and annoying, but guess what? If we all follow them, then everybody has the same rules, right? And having the same rules with the same expectations is very useful. So our reason for being here tonight is for you, the voters, to hear what the candidates think, and we're going to be spending our time trying to listen to them with your questions. So let me just read the 12 rules. It'll take about 2.5 minutes. We try to make sure everybody knows what the rules are. So I am a co-moderator. I'm a member of the League of Women Voters from outside the district, along with Katie Hangley, who is also outside the district. Candidates' opening statements have been determined by drawing numbers, which Katie will tell you what they are. It's the same order for opening statements and closing statements. Each candidate will be allowed 3 minutes for an opening statement. After all the candidates have spoken, the moderator will open the meeting with questions from the microphone, so go up to the podium. The moderator will ask you to give your question. Questions need to be less than a minute, so try to get your questions in the first 30 seconds if you can, because while microphones cause some people to want to give speeches, it is useful actually to try to get the questions out. In all cases, the moderator will be the final arbiter of whether questions should be answered. Questions must not be duplicative. That means don't ask the same question the person ahead of you asked, because you're probably going to get the same answer, even if you didn't like it. They can't be personal or abusive. Questions to the microphones will be strictly limited to 1 minute, and we have a timer, which Katie will be given, each candidate will be given 90 seconds to answer each question. At the moderator's discretion, the time for a response may be reduced so long as it is the same for everyone. There is no rebuttal. Questions may be addressed to a specific candidate or to candidates in general, although all candidates will be given an opportunity to answer any question addressed to a specific individual. The moderator will attempt to rotate the order of responses for each question. A league member will be acting as timekeeper. 1/2 minute from the end of any given time period, the 30-second sign will go up. The candidates don't see it, you know, we will all hiss at them. Actually, the moderator will. Candidates can finish their sentences at the stop sign, but they shouldn't make that sentence go on for 2 pages. If you ignore signals, you may have your speaking time reduced, and/or those not violating the rules may get more time. With 5, we typically reduce speaking time. With 2 or 3 or 4, we'll add speaking time. Candidates will then have 2 minutes for a closing statement, and since the purpose of the meeting is to determine the candidate's views, no substitute for the physical presence, no written or recorded statements, no use of props, but since we have 5 candidates, I won't give you all of those because they are actually here. In accordance with league policy, we own the content of the forums. Audio or video recording by authorized members of the media will be permitted only if agreed by the candidates in advance, and we haven't had any requests. We maintain the right to record the forum and publish it on league-controlled electronic pages, and no partial transcript or recording may be used without written permission from the league. So please don't make commercials out of snippets of this because you will be violating your rules. And we will post it on our league YouTube website, which is LWV, League of Women Voters, of PWM, Port Washington-Manhasset, YouTube. So just those 8 acronym and YouTube, you'll get, and you can see it as Carle Place. So moderators Katie and I are the arbiter of all decisions during the debate, and Katie will now take over.
Thank you, Judy. Thank you, candidates. Thank you, audience, voters, for being here tonight. I am a member of the league. My name is Katie Hangley, and I live in Fort Washington. I will be moderating tonight with Judy's help, and like you, we in the league are here tonight because we believe that citizenship requires both voter education and civic engagement, and that the responsibility for maintaining good government rests on the shoulders of you, the voters. So these are our expectations for you. Please be sure your cell phones are turned off or silenced. Thank you. Please do not block the doors, which by the way are also your emergency exits, or the camera. And our purpose here tonight, as Judy said, is to hear from the candidates, so let's focus on their voices, not ours. Please remain seated and silent during the questions and answers unless you're moving to or from the microphone. Please do not call out. As moderator, I will stop the debate if the audience interrupts. Interruptions do reduce the time for the candidates to speak, and we're here to listen to them. I want to emphasize what Judy just said, which is that league policy permits only authorized recordings of this forum. We will post the forum on our LWV of PWM YouTube channel before the election this week. And any audience member who violates the agreed procedures for this forum or disrupts the forum by ignoring audience expectations may be asked to leave. I know we won't have anything like that. Thank you all very much. This is going well. Okay, when I met with the candidates just before this, the candidates drew numbers for speaking order. I will do my best to rotate the order for the questions and answers, and I appreciate being corrected if I mess that up. So, tonight, the order is Patrick Dunphy will be first, Joe LoCurto is second, Neal McLaughlin is number 3.
Yes.
McLaughlin, thank you. Jacqueline DaTorre is number 4, and Ryan Nordman is number 5. That is the order for the opening statements and for the closing statements as well, and in between I will be rotating. So, Mr. Dunphy, you'll be going first with opening remarks. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you very much. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for mediating this today, moderating it, and supporting this good work that we're all here for, and really the important pride we take in our community, really throughout the entire evening. I am the proud Director of Career and Technical Education for the Sewanhaka Central High School District. We have 9 CTE programs to study, sometimes known as the trades. We have automotive programs, cosmetology, medical assisting is our recent addition to the family. Long before that, at this point, I started my career as a teacher in middle school and a K-8 school in Far Rockaway, Queens. Eventually transferred up to Francis Lewis High School, where I continued work as a social studies teacher, a special education teacher. Eventually took on the charge as a social studies AP of one of the largest, most successful social studies departments really in that area of Queens. Very proud of that work. I got involved in CTE through my doctoral work that I was completing at St. John's. Became an assistant principal at Nassau BOCES, both at Barry Tech, eventually acting principal at GC Tech during the pandemic. And eventually, like I said, took on the role as director of CTE at Sewanhaka Central High School District. My focus is on Election Day +1, as I've been moving around our community, our hamlet, and I again just I want to thank everyone for how accommodating everyone's been with signs and welcoming me into their kitchens and living rooms. We've had a lot of good talks. Some of the things that have come up are about enrollment. Our enrollment's dropped significantly. Some of the comments that we've shared, our interactions have been that eventually that would put a strain on us as taxpayers. And this is a problem if we don't try to build capacity around what's working in our district right now, so that we can try to get folks to come back into our schools. I respect every family's decision to whatever decision they make, of course, for their children. But the reality is that we've lost 100 students in 4 years. That's a lot. That is a big drop. That's a grade level. I think I graduated with 100 kids, right? Well, most of us in the room probably are shaking their heads at that. One parent actually told me, a neighbor of mine said, asking me, rhetorically, but asking me, am I going to keep my child in the district? Should I consider that? Next steps for pre-K. I was at a pre-K meeting recently. We're thrilled that a pre-K proposal was put in place. It's going to happen. There are some things with the rollout that we do need to keep in mind. Obviously we had the budget review tonight, which was exciting to be a part of. But just some of the grant work I've done I did some of my homework and recognized that there's a universal pre-kindergarten expansion grant for new full day and half day pre-kindergarten that I don't know if the district explored, but something I'd like to ask some more questions about.
Thank you, Mr. Dunphy. Audience, I'm going to ask you to applaud for each candidate after their opening statement and then hold your applause until the end. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. LoCurto?
Hi everyone, thank you for coming. As you know, I'm a lifetime resident of Carle Place. I've been on the board for 12 years. I graduated here, my brother graduated from here, my daughter and my son did. My wife, Mary Frances, was on the PTA for over 10 years. She held various positions in the PTA and she ended her career as co-president of the PTA council. My professional experience is in the credit card industry. I worked there for over 30 years. I was a general manager and I had direct responsibility for several business segments within the company. I opened a business division in Canada. I managed a bank relationship in Ohio. I was responsible for owning a P&L and delivering earnings and revenue growth and targets every year. My priorities are to continue to produce what we've produced so far in terms of a challenging education, great academics, a real safe environment, competitive sports, robust arts, choices and modern facilities and state-of-the-art technology. We've never exceeded a budget cap, and I'm very proud of that. I don't know where Mr. Dunphy why he's concerned about our budget. I'd love to hear about it. We've had 5 budgets under the cap and 7 budgets at the cap in my 12 years. I also make the commitment that if I'm reelected, we're still never gonna go over the cap. We've got single A1 rating, and we've had that since I've been on the board. One of my goals is to raise academic ranking, and we've done that. This year we raised our ranking over a prior year, and I will get into that later. My decision process is simple. It's students first. That drives decisions. I'm also very active in things that are going on right now with state aid and with our government that could impact our school district. And I think one of the reasons that we have had a significant amount of students leave is a couple of things. Number one, COVID, and number two, some of the state ed curriculum that they are trying to push, like DEI and certain books that they have allowed to seep into schools, and people have heard about it. So I think people should pay attention as to the why, because we ask when kids go. And in reality, if people are going to private school for religion, people are going to go to private school for religion, no matter how great this school is. And this is a great school. And I will get into the numbers later. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DaTorre. Thank you, Mr. DaTorre. Mr. McLaughlin, if you can take the mic. You have 3 minutes for your opening statement.
I think I have a big mouth, but I'll try, okay. Good evening, everybody. My name's Neal McLaughlin. Just try to go this way. I'm a little bit taller.
Just pull it off. Does it come off?
Sure, I can do that. Okay. Good evening, everybody. My name's Neal McLaughlin, a 28-year resident of Carle Place. Proud husband, proud father of a 2019 graduate. I also had the privilege of watching 8 nieces and nephews go through the school system. So there's a lot to be said for that, and I'll get into that later on. By way of professional background, recently retired, but I had over 38 years of property management, real estate management, facilities management, corporate services, engineering, and the like. In the investment banking world, the private sector, equities, and other various entities. The reason I'm here is simple. I mentioned this the other day. It's about the students. It's about the students. It's about the students. It's about the students, and it's about the parents and the community. Having said that, there is challenges as a Board of Education representative. However, I know for a fact that I still have a lot more to offer, and that is the key to why I am standing here this evening. 6 years completed, and I'm proud of the work I've done with the team. I do believe that as a team, no doubt about it, I said this earlier in a previous presentation, nobody's perfect. We all make mistakes. We learn from those mistakes. Yes, even as a Board of Education, we learn from mistakes and we just try and correct them and we move forward. And actually, I'm going to say something that there's been a lot of wording around it, but I'm going to take credit and say that I coined the phrase rather than, you always hear about moving forward. Personally, I think it's about time we move upward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McLaughlin. Ms. DaTorre, you have 3 minutes for your opening statement.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. My name is Jackie DaTorre, and I'm running for one of the trustee positions on the Carle Place Board of Ed. I've been a Carle Place resident for over 35 years. My daughter Adriana is in 1st grade, and my son John Luca will be entering kindergarten next year. Some of the fondest memories are when I walked these hallways, played on the various sports fields. Outsiders and new residents might not understand the motto, once a frog, always a frog, but it runs deep in my soul. I literally bleed green. It is said that it takes a village to raise kids, and we are fortunate enough to have amazing teachers, administrators, and support staff help our families form who we are today. We have the Connollys, the Pivas, the Cerrutis, the Capozis, the Blakes, the list can go on and on. These men and women gave us the opportunity to grow, learn, and have fun in academics, athletics, and arts. They're the reason I became an educator. They made an impact on mine and so many others that came before and after me. This village is a small village where everybody knows each other. Good and bad, we are a community that fights hard and loves harder. There's no other place I would want to raise my children. My husband didn't understand the pull that Carle Place has on so many people that grew up here, but soon he found out why this little hamlet is the best. It's real simple. It's the community, the schools, the bonds you form with your neighbors that are like family. It's the nights where we all come together on the sports field to cheer on our teams, or when we come to student-led plays and musicals. Unless you live here, you don't understand it. So when I decided to run for this position, I knew that I would bring the same values, respect, love, and opportunities that I grew up learning here in Carle Place. As a candidate for Carle Place School Board, I'm committed to ensuring that every child in our district has the opportunity to excel athletically, academically, and socially. Our schools are more than just a building. They are the heart of our community. They shape the minds and the futures of our children. As a mother, I understand the hopes, dreams, and concerns of fellow parents firsthand, but as a community member and an educator, I know we cannot afford to let any child fall behind. We must invest in targeted interventions and resources to support our struggling readers and mathematicians, ensuring that they receive the extra help that they need to succeed. We also want to focus our energy on those students that are above and beyond their levels. It is important to challenge those students so that they do not lose interest in school because they're bored. Differentiated instruction for all levels should be started in pre-K and go all the way through their educational career. But our efforts can't stop there. We must also focus on early intervention and prevention, identifying and addressing learning gaps before they become insurmountable barriers of success. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. DaTorre. And now we'll hear from Mr. Nordman. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Ryan Nordman. I'm running for your trustee of the Carle Place Board of Education. I spent my life as a public servant serving the United States Navy, followed by a career as a firefighter at the FDNY. The greatest job of my life has been that of dad. All 3 of my daughters attend Carle Place schools, a 4th grader, a 3rd grader, and a 1st grader. My children are my top priority, and I want to ensure that they will be in a learning environment that values education and success, as well as student safety and well-being. Post-COVID, I was very vocal, speaking out against mandatory mask and vaccine mandates for our children in Carle Place. I am a firm believer that parents, not the government, should be making decisions for the children. If elected, I will fight against government overreach in our schools and keep parents at the forefront of decision-making for their kids. The reason why I'm running the reason I'm running is to protect the children of Carle Place. There has been a recent unsettling trend in education in recent years, with the focus being taken away from reading, writing, and arithmetic. In its place are ideologies and political agendas that have no place in the classroom. Recently, the New York State Board of Regents has proposed to allow any boy to play on a girls' sports team if that sport is not offered to boys. Title IX is in jeopardy, and society is trying to eliminate women's sports. Years ago, men were raised to protect women. Now they're being raised to be them. If elected, I will protect girls' sports and female athletes of Carle Place and not have their safe spaces violated. The new Culturally Responsive Sustaining Education curriculum, or CR-S, that our governor is looking to mandate for graduation is nothing more than a thinly veiled attempt to push an agenda on our kids and young minds. I refuse to allow my children or anyone else's to be used as political pawns. There are many things that I find troubling in this curriculum. For example, CRS education believes that gender and sexual orientation should be recognized and regarded as assets for teaching and learning. I disagree. I believe that it's the responsibility of a parent to teach the children about sensitive subjects and have no place in the classroom. In very simplistic terms, the curriculum is saying that ideology should be taught to our kids rather than facts. I am also concerned with children's financial knowledge. In this morning's New York Post, there was an article about how Gen Z is facing greater debt that is significantly higher than millennials. Economists say that young people are more delinquent on credit card payments and more likely to rely on family for help. This will likely delay life milestones such as home ownership, marriage. If elected, I will try to implement a financial foundation class into the curriculum to explain to the children that power of compound interest and how investing early can create generational wealth. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nordman. We are ready for our first question. And it looks like someone is coming. No, she's not. All right, who has a question? It's a nasty trick. If anyone else thinks they're going to have a question, you might want to make your way up to the front so that you're ready to go with the mic.
You need my name first.
No. Optional, but you do have 1 minute.
Eloise Meyer, 32-year resident of this school district. This question is for all of the candidates. In light of the fact that the Carle Place School District has one of the highest per student spending of any district in the country, and that the relatively small number of homeowners funding the district can no longer deduct more than $10,000 in state and local taxes. Will you do anything to consolidate and restrain the excessive school budget spending? Please expand. Additionally, do you have any views on the proportional relegation of spending according to the various areas of expenditure in the school budget and curriculum? And I would like Mr. Dunphy to tell us what the number is that he used as our enrollment, please.
All right, well, Mr. LoCurto will get the first opportunity to answer, but Mr. Dunphy, when it's your turn, you have a special query.
I thought I was two.
Your two, and now we're rotating.
Oh, okay, great. Hi Eloise, let me get to that because, I've said again, and I'll repeat it, we are very numbers conscious in this community. As I said, 5 budgets below cap, 7 at cap. Okay, so we are very conscious about that. This year, we cut out $672,000 in expenses from what we had originally posted for our first cut of the budget. Our expense base this year was $57,186,000. We put in revenues of $10,336,000 for our bottom line budget of $46,850. We put in the following revenue items. We got state aid of $6.1 million, reserves 1.2, pilots 2.6, others 0.4, which totaled up 10.3. I will just tell you that what we do, and I've said this to you a few times, where we make the numbers for the budget work is on our contract work. And we have put in place contracts that are cap friendly. We just closed a 6-year contract with the teachers union. And our president of the union tells me that he's very happy with the contract. It's a very fiscally good contract for both the community and the teachers. And just so you know about the key expense here and why contracts are so important, salaries fully loaded for everybody who works here besides teachers, including teachers. The percentage of the budget is 77%.
Thank you, Mr. LoCurto. You went over time.
I'm sorry.
Mr. McLaughlin, next.
No.
Hi Eloise, you're very familiar with me as well. Thank you for coming. One thing I say about you is you're steady and consistent. Every year, in the 6 years that I've been here, you've come and asked some poignant questions. So thank you very much for that. So with the budget, I think I've expressed myself as well as the other individuals on the board that the process of putting together a budget is not a simple one. It's not an easy one. There's things beyond our control and there are many things within our control. I think Mr. LoCurto touched on several of them, but I know in my 6 years on the board, I've been part of a team that has not pierced the cap, and I would say more responsibly created a fiscally responsible, I avoid using the word conservative for some people's perspective, and I think that we've done a good job and we do a really good job. One of the challenges is state aid is not that well, and we're limited to what they give us, and we have to work outside of that ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. DaTorre?
Can I just take this one? It's easier. Hi, how are you? Eloise, you said? Hi. So obviously I'm new and I've been going over the budget that was presented at one of the board meetings, and I definitely don't want to go past the cap, but I think spending money on students is important. Programs are important. That's how we get kids to read and learn. So I definitely look forward, if I'm elected, to go over the budget in detail with people that have already been on it and the business superintendent. But right now, I would never want to increase my taxes or yours. Thank you.
Mr. Nordman.
So I'm new to, all these other people have more experience in the school system than me. But I feel like the reason our taxes are so high is because our school is so great. If you took your same house and put it, you know, a couple blocks on the other side of Ellison Avenue, your price would, the value would decrease. So I'm all for, you know, making the school great and spend whatever we have to do. And that's it.
Thank you. Mr. Dunphy?
Right, so just to respond to your question, the enrollment numbers I got directly from the New York State Education Department website. So if you go back the last 4 school years, our enrollment has dropped by 100 students. That's a fact. I'd have to get back to you on the actual numbers. But they're made public on the New York State Education website.
Can I just clarify, is that total school enrollment?
Total school enrollment. Yep.
That's not only because kids are leaving,
Well,
it's also because
let me
kids are not coming in.
let me finish. So, what I was going to talk about before, and just to clarify, I'm happy with the budget the way it is. Certainly am, but I have questions about it. So, and I don't think that, you know, the dropping enrollment piece is one thing. Eventually that will impact our state aid, okay? And why should we wait for that to happen to look for solutions? So what I said before about universal pre-K is just a cursory search would reveal to me that the last 2 years, there was $25 million in grant money that was available to schools that were trying to open up full day pre-K or expand on a half day pre-K. So I don't know if that was discussed. I haven't heard anything about it. But when I was referring to these are specific questions that I would ask about of our central office, that I think all of us should be asking about of our board, of course, because it was $25 million. Round 1 was about 11, 13 and change the second year, and that was, I don't know if they'll have a round 3, but it didn't look like that in the research I did. But that's money on the table we could have used to fund our universal pre-K, and so that was something that I just wanted to point out.
Thank you.
Can I rebut that?
No, we do not have rebuttals. Does everyone have anything else to say on that? Does everyone want 30 more seconds on the budget?
I do now. I want 30.
Are we all in agreement on that?
Sure.
Okay, everyone has 30 more seconds on the budget.
I'll just tell you the 30 seconds I
Mike,
have.
microphone.
I want to point out a couple things. Why I'm running for the board is because I have 12 years of experience. We've got a few new people on our staff, 2 new board members already, a new superintendent and a new principal. I want to be around to help them, and I want to be around to help them move the school up. As a response that you just heard from our 2 candidates about the budget, they were thinking about running quite a while ago, I'm sure. Neither one of them
Thank you for that
attended
extra
a
30
budget
seconds, Mr.
meeting,
LoCurto.
and neither one of them asked any of these
Mr.
questions.
LoCurto, your time is up. Thank you.
Thank you.
No clap.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Somebody finished my statement, thank you for not allowing the clapping. So really, the budget is what it is, Patrick. I think absolutely, there's things that could change. The reason we go through the budget in such level detail is we want to make sure that the expenses are kept under control and that we make sure that we're doing the best we can for the community. One thing I will point out, that's pretty obvious, that goes into a $57 million budget for the school, that 70-some-odd% of that
Time, please.
is all based on the teachers' retirement system, the teachers' salaries, et cetera.
Thank you. Ms. DaTorre?
Mr. LoCurto, thank you so much for pointing out that the 3 of us are new. So was a lot of other people here. And I believe you were new at one point 12 years ago, and you learned as well. So it's about learning, and I'm a teacher, I'm an educator. We have Pat that's an educator, and we have somebody that's got heart on the end of here. So if you vote for us, just know that we'll put anything we have in for it. So Mr. LoCurto can make all the comments about experience he wants. Action talks. And I've seen your action the last couple of years with some of the hirings that you put on.
Okay, let me remind you that there will be no personal comments or
Well,
attacks.
he made a comment, so I'm just rebutting that.
Mr. Nordman?
Yes, I did go,
Okay.
actually.
Oh, sorry.
I was there when you said BOCES, you didn't wanna vote for BOCES budget.
Okay, everything you guys do up here is for the eyes of your voters.
That's fine.
Because I don't know too much about the budget and everything. I'm willing to learn, and if I get elected, I'll dedicate a lot of time to it. But, vote Nordman.
And Mr. Dunphy?
So not only have I been to board meetings, but I recently, I was at a board meeting, I was actually given a citation and took a picture similar to the tenure event we had preceded this by these same board members from my work with the Carle Place Education Foundation. I think it supplied many of us with frogs on our lawns. So I was very happy to be here for that. But the 77% number, that's common. You know, Sewanaka has about 80% devoted to salaries. That is the biggest expense. Teachers actually make the biggest impact too. And I'll leave it at that.
Okay, thank you. Do we have, no applause, please. Do we have another question tonight? Yes.
Good evening, Kristen Biggin. This is for all of the candidates. Our high school girls gymnasium is named after Becky King, a beloved physical education teacher, the pioneer of our championship field hockey program, and a leader who advocated for Title IX in Nassau County. Recently, New York State said it would consider changes to Title IX, such as allowing boys to play girls' sports if a district did not offer it for boys. Pat Piazzarelli, director of Section 8 Athletics, said it would have a direct impact on field hockey in Nassau County. Will you outrightly oppose these changes that Ms. King fought so hard for and voice your opinion against state ed publicly? Yes or no? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. McLaughlin?
Kristen, I think you know me. It's can't be any simpler than absolutely not. Field hockey is one example. Lacrosse, I think perhaps some people know, some people don't know. My daughter's a 2019 graduate. She became a Division I lacrosse player, an athlete, and I just couldn't imagine what she would have been faced with here. Although I think she probably would have kicked some butt, but that's besides the point because she's a McLaughlin. I know for a fact that there is no way in holy heck that I'm going to support anything of that nature. You know, it's absolutely absurd. It is really absurd. And to your point, Title IX was there for a reason. And you know what? Power to the women. That's all I gotta say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Torre.
Thank you. That's a very good question. I would never allow men to be on women's team or vice versa. I think there is a place for everybody, and it wouldn't be fair to women who are trying hard to get to places like Mr. McLaughlin's daughter did. So no, I would definitely disagree with having mixed genders on a sports team unless it's t-ball, which I coach.
Thank you. Mr. Nordman.
So it's funny because I wrote about this in my opening speech. My wife made me take it out. She said I was coming across too hard. But I'm going to read it now. I said, like, you know, men, they don't even have to identify as a girl according to the new proposition. They just have to, if they don't have the sport, they could do it. So the women's field hockey could basically be all men on the women's team, which is crazy. And then I was like, so whatever, and if you're a parent of one of the boys and you're proud that your son is the best player on the women's field hockey team, you're the problem. You know, so I'm totally against it. There's no way.
Okay. Sorry, Mr. Dunphy, thank you.
Yes, as a proud girl dad, I can say I would oppose it. That would be my response. She can certainly handle her older brothers, but she shouldn't have to. In that regard.
And Mr. LoCurto.
We just had a discussion on this at the prior board meeting today. Not only do I oppose it, I would recommend that Carle Place join a class action lawsuit, because this has not been decided by our legislature. This is decided by state ed, who's making outrageous new policies across the board for education in New York. And this is only one of their outrageous decisions. I've got a lot more to talk to you about. And also, this is another reason that parents are debating whether to continue to send their students to public schools or private schools. State ed is the biggest problem we face if we want to continue our education the way we know it in Carle Place. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates. Okay, do we have another question tonight? Sure. Sure. Yes, please, because we do want everyone to be able to hear it.
It's like a budget review, Ellie.
This question is for Mr. Dunphy or for anyone else who wishes to answer. Mr. Dunphy, since you said you worked in technical education, and since I have mentioned a number of times that I believe that what Carle Place in this country needs are more technicians, plumbers, carpenters, electricians,
Take it from
everything
there.
along those lines. I would like to know if you have any views, or if you would try to implement any kind of mandatory exposure to technical education for everyone, and if you believe that everyone should have some of this
Yeah.
education.
Thank you for the question.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. Mr. Torre does,
I'm
Mr. Torre gets first crack at this one.
Oh, okay, perfect, thank you. So it's so funny, I just had a conversation with a parent today who was looking for a high school for their child, because they think that, college might not be the best fit for them and they wanted to learn a trade. So I think trades in schools is important, plumbers, electricians, medical assistants, cosmetologists. Going to BOCES is a great way to get exposed to it. And I think in this school, we got exposed to it in technology and architecture and all that stuff. So continuing that and implementing other programs, I think is great. I think not everybody is going to go to college, and a trade school is really good. And why not start it now in high school or younger?
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Nordman.
So of course, when I joined the Navy, I had no skills, like as far as mechanical skills. I worked in a deli all through high school, and then I became a jet engine mechanic somehow in the Navy, and I had to study very hard. I felt like I was behind everybody else from Oklahoma, Texas. They all worked on engines. So I definitely agree that we should have more trades in the schools. And when I was a fireman, everybody was like, "Oh, we need someone to bang nails, whatever." I didn't even hit a hammer, so I definitely would have came in handy. But I used to carry the bundles on, the shingles up to the roof to make money. So I used my back instead of my brain. But definitely, trades should be in the schools.
Thank you. Mr. Dunphy.
So I not only do I believe very strongly in this, but I've actually stood in this same auditorium and spoken to Carle Place students as and PTA meetings here to promote our programs at Barry Tech. As an assistant principal there, I am director of CTE at Sewanee Central High School District, and whether it's looking at Bureau of Labor Statistics or the obvious skills gap you see across the country and here, CTE is actually, there's a renaissance right now for CTE. Many school districts are creating their own programs. CTE is Career and Technical Education. Apologize. My work now, the last 3 years, we have almost doubled our enrollment in 9 CTE programs. And we've certified and built 3 more in addition to the 6 that were there. So we have 9 programs there now. When I was at Barry Tech, I made any excuse I could to board the Carle Place bus and say hello to the little frogs. I was always happy to see them. Gave many tours when I was at Barry Tech to Mr. DiPaolo, Mr. Rudy, and the folks here. Always good to see a friendly face. And I think I might have shared in our last talk, but it might be worth repeating, is that I felt so much pride in being there with those Carle Place kids, the same way I feel right now speaking to all of you. And I'll never forget when I first started at Barry Tech, July 2017, and one of the first calls I received, I was there a few days, and I was told, the secretary called, listen, you gotta get down here. There's an irate parent on the phone. And I only been there a few days. I was like, what could I possibly have done that quickly? And it was Neil Connolly messing with me. And he did it every year after that.
Okay, that was worth a few extra seconds. Okay, Mr. LoCurto?
For students that want to work, I strongly support them continuing their training at BOCES. That's how we support them here, and that's the fiscally responsible thing for us to do here. If you look at our graduating classes, we graduate in 2022, we graduated 90 students, 90% went to college, 10% went to work. In 23, it was 84 students, 98 went to college, 98%, 2% work. In 2024, 100%, 81% went to college, 7.4% are going to work. So what Mr. Dunphy has is appropriate for his school. We have very small amount of kids that are not looking to go to college in our school. Our graduation rates in those years, 22, 100%, 23, 96.6%, 2024 is going to be 100%. So not all cookie cutters fit all school districts, and we're a little different. And some of what he talks about as well, grants, no grants, it turns into incremental expenses on your budget every year as well that you've got to pay for ongoing people, etc. The other thing I'll mention, okay, I'll mention it later, sorry.
Okay, and Mr. McLaughlin?
Get out, I didn't even have to put it back in the stand. LOAs, absolutely. I think if I had to do it all over again, I'd probably be retired earlier than I am. You know, the blue collar, I gotta be careful, but I'll say what it is, what it is. A blue collar job is fantastic. You know, I wish coulda, shoulda, woulda, master electricians. There's a gentleman in here that probably could speak to that, who was our new director of facilities, and he certainly knows what the heck I'm talking about when it comes to the industry as itself. Plumbers, electricians, absolutely. There's a need, and yes, there is opportunities to continue to build on those programs within the school. And obviously, as we have all touched on, the BOCES program. You know, not everybody is meant and cut out for college. And I applaud those individuals that do that. And I tell you why, because sometimes you second guess why this generation, I pray for them that they really go in the right direction. You know, college is not for everybody, and sometimes I wonder, looking at all the expenses that you put into it as a parent and certainly as a student, athlete, whatever it may be, it's just makes you wonder. It could be a second guessing, and I applaud anybody who would go into what I consider, again, politically conscious of what I'm saying, blue collar industry. Thank you. Sorry for going over.
Thank you. All right, we need another question. I'd like you all to think about what you would like to ask your board members or future board members. And if no one has any other questions, oh, good. And the rest of you, please give some thought. If you think you might have a question you want to ask, please come to the front, or at least get ready with your question.
you doing? Being that the Board of Education has the important task of making the final decisions on many hirings in many areas throughout the district, these decisions come with many opinions within the community, as we've even seen tonight. However, they're some of the most important that you can make in the position for students, right? Because everybody talks about for students. The hiring of personnel in the district can 100% be for the students. How do each of your professional backgrounds help in the hiring process of prospective positions here at Carle Place?
Okay, thank you. We'll start with Mr. Nordman.
I don't even understand the question.
Sorry, could you ask your question again?
Yeah, what's your professional background? How does that help in the hiring part of hiring different people here in the district?
Okay. So basically my background, military, fire department, so I consider myself very conservative. So I would lean more to someone who has the value of, two-parent household. Men should not use women's bathrooms. I believe in two genders. So if somebody else had values that were different than mine, they would not, I would not approve their hiring.
Mr. Dunphy?
Yes, so actually I spent most of my day today. So Wanaka's on the hunt for assistant superintendent for curriculum instruction. So I spent most of my day in interviews for that role. Someone I work with directly in the districts. I think I'm very qualified for that role. I've hired many teachers, administrators, building and at the district level. I've been part of those committees, including the hiring of 3 Carle Place grads. I've worked at that quite a bit. We have more interviews tomorrow. It's that time of year. If you're a person in this line of work, you know that that's happening a lot. Just wanted to point out a couple other things too. Again, I'm a proud director of CTE, and there's a couple of things that I want to clarify to the group. First, more students who are enrolled in CTE programs not only go to college or some post-secondary, but actually complete post-secondary. Okay, that's a very important thing to point out. In our district, these are the numbers I have ready and at hand. We're at close to 90% of students that go to college and complete it out of our CTE programs. These kids go to college too, is my point. The other piece is that, yes, I know no way, listen, I was a NASA BOCES employee also. I'm not promoting Carle Place build their own programs unless that's something the community wanted. But understand that the last program I built was a medical assisting program with affiliation agreements at PM Pediatrics, where these kids go, Sewanaka kids are going to a Carle Place PM Pediatrics to get supervised clinical experiences. And I paid for it with a grant, $100,000 completely, no tax dollars.
Okay, thank you. Mr. LoCurto? The question was about how your professional experience informs your hiring.
In the credit card industry, I was a vice president and general manager. As I said, I created a whole business segment in Canada. I was responsible for hiring senior people to represent us in that business, from sales to finance to credit to marketing, every senior position in that business line. I also had a relationship with Huntington Bank, as I said, and I was responsible for hiring all of my direct reports on that relationship. Hiring people here at the school, I just want to clarify that the board is responsible and we interview the administrative group. And I asked similar questions of the administrative group that I had asked in business. The only thing I do now is I do a lot more research on the candidates, and I listen to what the community is looking for as well. So with Ted, I did a lot of research and researched a lot of the candidates, and I was very happy to deliver what the community asked for. Somebody in curriculum, and not only somebody in curriculum, but somebody that came from one of the best schools on Long Island, Garden City. They have a high rating all the time. Ted was there for 8 years heading up curriculum, and they're, like I said, one of the best in curriculum, and he should get some of the credit for that, and I expect him to do the same here. As for Alan, he's had a high
Mr. LoCurto, time.
reputation here, and it was not a lot of research needed to identify him.
Mr. McLaughlin.
Again, I didn't have to put it in the stand. Thank you. So your question about what kind of background I can bring to the table that qualifies me to, if I'm not mistaken, hire and make decisions on hiring, that's easy to some people. The career I've had has been, you name it, I've been through it. I was through the good times, the bad times in Wall Street. On the back office side of things, I understand what it takes to hire qualified people. One of the things I consider myself is a people person. I believe I can sit across from a person and, you know, maybe slight exaggeration, within 2 or 3 minutes, know if that's the right person. I've been through so many hirings. I'm not proud to say I've had to let people go. You know, one time I was known as the Axeman, never proud of that, but it happens. You know, there's cutbacks, there's layoffs, etc. So my qualifications are right from where I came from, what I did, and there's no turning back. I tremendously offer a lot of opportunity and experience that I could put up against anybody on the table. And much to Mr. LoCurto's point, I think we did a heck of a job with the most recent series of hires. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. DaTorre?
Hi, so before I was a teacher, I was a junior art director, and I was in charge of reviewing portfolios, resumes, to find graphic designers and multimedia producers, and that was my job, to look through the resumes and conduct different interviews. When I became a teacher, I went on the committee to review educational resumes as well as administrative resumes. I conduct interviews with a bunch of teachers within the district and also within the school. And believe it or not, I go on interviews every year to see what other schools are doing. What are they doing? What kind of questions are they asking? How are they conducting their interviews? And then I bring it back to my school. I love my school, I don't wanna leave my school, but I definitely wanna see what's out there and what other people are looking for. So I think I'm qualified to look and hire and find great people to work in Carle Place, to continue the achievements that we've done already.
Thank you. All right, do we have another question? Are we ready? Oh, yes, we do.
Hello, I'm Ashley. One of the most important roles of being on the Board of Education is your willingness to hear the community and the flexibility to work and understand what is best for our community. That being said, how do you plan to implement your views while also being open to hearing the community and making sure their voices are equally heard?
Okay, and that goes to Mr. Dunphy first.
So part of the work I do the federal and state Perkins grant work. It's a rigorous process. It includes a comprehensive local needs assessment. So right away, we have to gather all stakeholders in a certain space. The way we drive curriculum, how we make funding decisions. We first create a local advisory council, and then we have what I call like an extended family of industry partners, post-secondary partners, but parents are included in that, students are in the program, prospective students, and these are things that we must have to really go through all the ins and outs before we make any decision. I'm used to that in my professional life. Personally, I'm one of 6 kids, I'm the middle child. I'm used to listening and hearing from everyone. Before I came here tonight, I had to have the obligatory catch with my younger son outside, and some family members were walking by, and we got into a little conversation about some of the pressing matters in the school district and in the community. So I'm all ears. I'm a listener. I'm a relationship builder. You're not really going to get very far if you're not that way. I'm used to responding to phone calls from everyone under the sun, every parent. I wouldn't have gotten very far if I didn't return phone calls or emails. And so I pride myself on that. So, you know, I'm ready. I'm ready, you know, and I've said no to this type of thing for a long time, but I'm ready to help. I want to dive in with 2 feet. Jump in with 2 feet. I'll stop. All right.
Thank you.
Trying to keep it fun, guys.
Mr. LoCurto.
People who know me and
Have worked with me in my 12 years know that I respond to the community. Some of the things we've done that were community brought up at board meeting. Number one, we hired assistant varsity coaches this year because it was brought up that there was problems relative to safety and additional coaching, so we brought that in. We also started sending students to BOCES for the LISA program, which is a program that is tailored towards exceptional students in the arts program. I remember a couple sitting in the board meetings time and time again and asking us about the LISA program, and it was 2 people similar to the whole pre-K group that we met with this year, came to every meeting and followed us through until we okayed it on the budget. So pre-K this year was another example.
30 seconds.
The community brought it up. They said they needed it. They presented to us. We said we would do our due diligence. We did. We're starting it. It's not perfect yet, but over time it will become perfect. And again, as I said, I listen to the community. I've reacted to a lot of things. There's a lot of people in the audience that I recognize who've called me, and I've responded to them, and they're very happy with what they've heard and my reactions to their problems.
Thank you. Mr. McLaughlin.
Once again, it's easy for me. I don't put it back in the stand. So when it comes to listening to the community, absolutely. I mean, there's times we've talked about things that perhaps the community brings to us that are difficult to put forth and put into play. But I know for a fact I can speak about, in one particular case, which is a raging success in my book right now, to start, is UPK. There's an individual I'm gonna look at and smile that just was persistent and persistent and persistent about it. Going back a little bit, the answer to the community wanting and needing or asking for things, it's based on the persistency of the need for it. And by that I mean, I'll take the UPK as the classic example. When I first started, there wasn't, and others can, Joe could correct me if I'm wrong, but there wasn't that much of an interest. And I get it. Years change, times change. Conscious of saying the word generations, and certainly it's a start, and I think we can do more, and we will. And I do listen to the community. Like Mr. LoCurto said, the athletic program needed help, and we listened. And we do listen to the community, and I will never stop listening. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. DaTorre.
Hi, so in my school, we have an SLT committee, which is composed of teachers, union leaders, community members, and various people, other people. It's important to listen to the staff, the community, to see what they want, the programs they want, who they want in there. So that's something that I'm very familiar with. I'm also the community liaison, where I go into the community and I get donations and resources from district leaders and community members and business owners. So listening to them and see what they want for the school is very important. I also actually wrote something here, not as a nervous when I'm reading. So I believe in listening to the voices of all stakeholders, parents, students, teachers, and community members, and working collaboratively to address challenges facing our district. Together we can tackle issues such as improving academic achievements, enhancing school safety, special education, and athletic programs. If elected, I as a representative on the school board, I will be tirelessly advocating for our students and for their families. I will prioritize transparency and accountability and fiscal responsibility to ensure that our district operates efficiently and effectively. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Nordman.
So basically, watching the news and watching like these college kids destroy these campuses, I say that somebody failed them, and I see that they have their educators destroying the campuses with them. So if anybody who's like that, I would not hire. I could tell right away. I have a good judge of character, and these kids are being failed. They didn't graduate high school 4 years ago because of COVID. Now they're preventing people from graduating college. And somehow their educators fail them, and I would be able to weed them out. And that's it.
Okay, thank you. We have time for one more question. Thank you very much. And after this, we'll go to closing statements.
So during COVID, I was at pretty much every board meeting, standing in this very room. You gentlemen might remember me, fighting against the mask mandates. Ryan Nordman was right there along with me. And I appreciate the fact that he's really putting himself out there and being who he is and not sugarcoating anything. You know, in terms of listening to the community, yes, it's absolutely imperative that everybody's voice is heard. However, I also believe that you have to take a stance on certain things one way or the other. So now that COVID is over, and now we're fighting against this CRS curriculum, which I am totally against. And I guess I'm just curious who my fighters are going to be. I know Ryan Nordman would suit up in a second and fight against this curriculum and do what's best for our kids. And I'm just curious to know who else is willing to take that fight. And in doing that, obviously you're going to upset a certain amount of people in the community who do think that this curriculum is beneficial. But, you know, I guess I'm just looking for a fighter because I'm never gonna stop fighting for my beliefs and what my kids.
Can you clarify what your question is?
So my question is, where does everybody stand on this new CRS curriculum that they're trying to mandate? And are you willing to fight against it being mandated for our kids?
Okay, we'll start with Mr. LoCurto.
I've already started fighting against this. That's one of the reasons I just got a support from Senator Jack Martins. I met with him and 2 assemblymen a week ago to discuss CRSE, the Blue Ribbon Committee, and all of the things that state is pushing down on education. I work with a group of like-minded board members from all over Nassau and Suffolk County, and we are going to push back on state ed, NYSBA, Long Island representatives in NYSBA, as well as BOCES, because they all say the same mantra, okay? And this is very important to understand. We have 2 educators here that are handicapped in fighting state ed, because that's their careers. I have no handicap and I'm already doing it. I've already handed out the documents to people. I've met with people in the community about their feelings. I haven't heard of a lot of people supporting it. And I even asked our union leader if he had read the documents when he interviewed me. He still hadn't read the documents. And it calls for additional training for teachers to roll this curriculum out. And the teachers should be well versed in what's expected of them coming up, especially the senior teachers. Thank you for the question.
Mr. McLaughlin?
I love it. Never having to put it back into the stand. That's an easy one. There's absolutely no way I would support the most hot button item out there. I'm going to call it alphabet soup, because you know what? DEI, CRT, CRSE, you know, you could put a label on it, you could put a description on it, but at the end of the day, I do not agree with, and I simplify it, there's not a place to, in this country, there's not a place to think that part of the curriculum should be what I call revisionist history. This country was built on a foundation of everybody working hard, and warts and all, I think there's a place for everybody, but at the same time, there is no way that I will support any kind of program that would enhance any of the alphabet soup descriptions that I like to use. Again, you can't be any more solid about something. I've raised these questions in executive session about the curriculum, about the books, what's appropriate, age appropriate for children to be engaged with reading. So that's a classic example of it. And with that, I will close my statement. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. DaTorre.
Thank you. So as a city teacher, excuse me?
What is CR, whatever you?
Cultural responsive education, like CRT. So as a city teacher, they rolled this out 3 years ago, and we have to actually implement curriculum that's who's sitting in front of us. So if you have a class full of African American or Spanish or Asian, you want to meet those needs for those kids. I'm all for being, how do you say it, celebrating cultures, but I'm not going to have any kind of curriculum that has to do with gender identity and stuff like that. I'm not trained to teach it. I don't feel comfortable teaching it. So no, I'm definitely not handicapped with it, as Ms. LoCurto said, but treating everybody equally, yes. Teaching about it, that's for the parents. My daughter came home to me the other day and asked me, why is so-and-so and so-and-so living together? They're two females. So I had to explain to her why. And that's my job. It's my job to decide how to do it, just like it's all of your jobs. Don't leave that up to the educators. I'm an educator and I don't feel comfortable teaching it. The parents should teach that. Thank you. And I would fight.
Thank you. Mr. Nordman.
So I have 3 girls at home. The whole, everybody knows me. The last thing I want to be here. I want to be watching the Ranger game or something at home, drinking a beer. But they're the reason that I'm here. I will fight tooth and nail to prevent it from happening in this school district and in this state.
Thank you. Mr. Dunphy.
The fact is, we know who we are. We don't need it. And honestly, I not only do I speak to New York State Education Department representatives and associates on a regular basis, I have arguments with them all the time. There actually are people up there in Albany that you can speak to about these things. When I was a kid in high school, right here in these hallways, I was in 10th grade. I was diagnosed with Stickler syndrome, which is a connective tissue problem. It's a genetic disorder that I have, and for me, I had a retinal detachment. I never felt disconnected. I never felt unincluded. My teachers visited my house. I was on home instruction. The school mobilized my school counselor, who's still here, worked with central office to make sure I had an emergency 504 plan so I could have the home instruction I needed. I never felt excluded. This district does an amazing job. Its teachers do a great job. Okay, and that's something to be proud of. And the fact is, these are conversations you can actually have with real people at NYSET, and they do understand.
Okay, thank you. Before we move on to closing statements, I want to remind everyone that Election Day is Tuesday, May 21st. What? Well, we are just about out of time, so if we can keep it to a quick question and 60 seconds to answer. Are we all agreed?
Yes. Do it.
Okay.
Security is obviously a hot topic in education lately. Unfortunately, it also seems to be used as an excuse for some decisions. A perfect example happened right here in Carle Place. The PTA sponsored after-school programs at Cherry Lane had to be moved to start at 4 p.m. rather than starting right after school, making it very inconvenient for parents. When I questioned Cherry Lane administration, I was told teachers made too many mistakes where kids who should have stayed were sent home on buses, etc. So the decision was made for the safety concern. I followed up my concern with an email to the Board of Ed, but did not get any response. So for those of you who are on the board, can you give me your opinion now on how it was handled? And for those who are running, how would you have handled the situation? And would you have allowed the program start time to be pushed back or rectify the underlying problem? Our teachers are having difficulty dismissing students and give them better training or better oversight.
Okay, thank you. We'll start with Mr. McLaughlin and please try to keep it brief.
So just to clarify, what you're asking about was a particular incident, is that correct? That occurred? Okay. From what I understand, it was a difficult, sensitive security issue. And as a matter of fact, yeah, you have to make adjustments, and the teachers have to do what they have to do, the superintendent and all the administrative people have to be conscious of it. Was it inconvenient? Probably was. But sometimes when it comes to security, you really need to make tough decisions, and nothing's perfect. You know, it happened. It certainly may not happen again. Let's hope it doesn't happen again. And I'm stopped here.
Ms. DaTorre.
Thank you. So Karen, I understand your question. I find it insane that the district was, not the district, I'm sorry, that the start time for after school programs were back an hour. You know, we have parents that are working, we have parents that rely on different things, and going to these after school programs straight from their classroom should not be an issue for teachers. I have like 1,300 kids in my school. We have to be in charge of all of them. I'm not just in charge of my classes, 150 kids. I'm in charge of all of them, their safety. We have runners in my school. We have to make sure that they are safe. If teachers can't do it, let's provide training for them. And not getting a response is upsetting, because I had an issue. I emailed Miss Moriarty, and she got back to me right away and dealt with it. And that's how an administrator should do it, and that's how the board and everybody should. Teachers need to step up and, you know, get training so they could move their kids into the right programs, into the right areas. The parents shouldn't have to rely on a babysitter for an hour, or a grandparent. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Nordman.
So I'm unfamiliar with the question, but if it was up to me, the program starts right after school, make the teachers accountable, get it done.
Thank you. Mr. Dunphy.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it's totally unacceptable you didn't get a response. I mean, I can promise you, you will get a response if I'm elected. Obviously, there's definitely some clarity I think I would need. I mean, I've run buildings. I don't see, you know, why that would, based on the information I have, I guess I've got some questions about why that's the case. I mean, in general, I've had experience running or creating building level emergency response plans, and, you know, working with, you know, POP officers and, you know, different precincts and things like that. It doesn't sound like this is in that realm at all. It just sounds like, so I guess I would just have more questions, but I think it comes back to a response and working with that, you know, the building leadership to make sure that they're supported too, because that, you know, there could be something else to it that, and again, I'm just not familiar with all the details. But just having that experience on my own, there's certain empathies I have, and definitely some questions that I'd want to discuss, and, you know, ensure that the structures are in place to deal with the obvious needs you have. As a parent, we're a year away, my wife and I, from having a kid in each of these buildings. It is tough. It's a marathon to run.
Okay, thank you. Mr. LoCurto.
If you didn't get a response, like you said, I apologize, because quite frankly, if you sent it to all of us, the process is that either the superintendent or the president, and I'm not trying to, you know, do anything but explain the process, would respond to the email. If it was directly at me and I missed it, I apologize as well. Security is the most important thing that I think we have a responsibility for. And I backed the principal on this. The way I understand it, there are external people that come into our building to carry out the program. And there were some difficulties in those people communicating as well in terms of whether they're showing up or not, okay? I don't know that it's a, you know, good program or not. All I can say is we will look into it and we'll reevaluate it. But if a principal is making a security decision, I will support that principal on why they're moving and changing things. And there are going to be some times when people in the community have to change their ways because we're changing things for security. And that's our number one issue.
Thank you very much. Okay, So, Election Day is Tuesday, May 21st. I actually don't have in front of me what time the polls are open. Does anyone know for sure?
6 to 9.
6 to 9, great. So, don't forget to vote. A recording of this forum will be available on the LWV of PWM YouTube channel, or you can link to it through our website within 48 hours. So, we will go to closing statements. I'll ask everyone to applaud after each candidate's closing statement, and I want to thank everyone for sharing the stage tonight and for your willingness to answer these questions. So we're going in order, the same order as the opening statements. Mr. Dunphy, you go first.
Yeah, I'll keep mine brief. There's something about being a local leader. Carle Place is that. I think we have to get back to that. I knew that, when I was running the Social Studies Department in Queens, when I started to get calls from, Bayside and Cardozo and Forest Hills, John Bound, you name the school, like we knew we were doing something right. I get those calls now from other CTE directors all over Nassau, Suffolk County, sometimes from upstate. How did you do this? How did you approach that thing? We're doing something right? I know with Dr. Cannoni that'll happen in Carle Place. I know that. But the reality is that we want to make sure, we want to ensure that we're building capacity all the time, building the right programs, responding to your needs, answering emails, right? So that we can, make sure we're doing the right things for our kids, including my three, Theodore, George, and Alice. A little shout out to them. Hopefully they're in bed. But thank you for having us tonight, and thank you again to the League of Women Voters for moderating.
Thank you, Mr. Dunphy. Mr. LoCurto, you have 2 minutes for your closing statement.
Okay, it's been a privilege to serve on the board for the last 12 years. Our school has improved, as I said. Our current ranking is on the New York State side, 139, better than every school in the Sewanaka School District. I just want to also tell you that there's a lot of important things to look at. The most important thing here is the fact that the state education is rolling out a new curriculum. They are rolling out the Blue Ribbon Committee's curriculum. It's focused on culturally responsive, sustaining education. You need to learn it if you have young students, because it's going to impact the young students. They've already started to roll out the plans for civic readiness, which is a portion of the culturally responsive sustaining education and the Blue Ribbon Commission requirements. Challenges to Title X as well. That came from the state. They're also contemplating a change in school aid formula that we haven't talked about, and our books are superb, and if in an emergency they cut our aid, we'll be able to handle it. There's also a proposition out there to reduce the requirements for teacher certification, which hasn't been discussed tonight. So your students could be taught by teachers who is not as qualified as the ones we have today.
30 seconds, please.
There's a mandate about rolling out battery-powered buses by 2027, another additional cost that we'll be hit with over time. There are housing proposals coming from Governor Hochul, left and right, that will impact schools across Nassau and Suffolk County with increased populations, and then increased costs to support those schools, which we haven't talked about tonight. I also want to thank everybody for this event, and I really appreciate the people who turned out tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. LoCurto. Mr. McLaughlin, your closing statement?
It is my turn, huh? Okay, great. First of all, I want to thank everybody for attending. I think looks like a few dozen people left. Glad they were able to show up, though. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for moderating this meeting or election campaign, whatever you want to call it. At the end of the day, I think there's two things I'm going to pose for my closing statement. One, I firmly believe that it is really not a good time to change the seating on the board, and the reason I express that is because Mr. LoCurto touched on it earlier. We have two board members, new trustees who are just finishing up their first year. They've done a tremendous job. There's certainly a lot still to come along with them. Secondly, the new hires that we've put into place. We have a new superintendent, barely here a year. We have a new director of facilities. We've made all these new hires in the last 2 or 3 weeks or 4 weeks, whatever it may be. And I will pose this question. Do you want to have educators managing educators? And I also want to make a point of, I would think that some other people on this dais wouldn't want to use this as another check on their resume. I do know that there's a particular member here who was probably pretty much discouraged from doing it, but he took it upon himself to do it as well. And you know, again, it's a difficult task being a board member as well as an educator, and they're two separate and distinct situations. Thank you very much. I appreciate everyone for coming.
Thank you.
So thank you so much. First, I want to say before I close that educators definitely belong on the school board. Educators are what the school board is about. We can learn from each other. We're good at researching and doing professional development and building schools up. And to say an educator should not be on the board is ridiculous because it's all about school. But anyway, in closing, I want to express my heartfelt gratitude for the opportunity to address you tonight. As a candidate for the Carle Place School Board, my commitment to our community runs deep. Our schools are the heart of our community, and the decisions we make will shape the future of our children and our community for generations to come. I am passionate about ensuring that every student has the opportunity to succeed, that every teacher has the support and resources they need to excel, and that every parent has a voice in their child's education. If elected to the school board, I pledge to work tirelessly to uphold the values of transparency, accountability, and inclusivity. I will listen to your concerns, advocate for your priorities, and strive to build consensus and collaboration among all stakeholders. Together, we can build a brighter future for our community, one where every child has the opportunity to thrive, where every teacher is empowered to inspire, and where every family feels valued and supported. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to your support on May 21st. Vote new so things change for the better. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Burris. And Mr. Nordman.
I appreciate everyone coming tonight. Every time I watch the news and I see our flag and monuments being desecrated by these entitled college kids, it breaks my heart. We should be raising patriots and warriors. You know, what needs to be done in this school district is to keep it great. You gotta bring new blood in. The students will always be the #1 priority, and I will never let the government make decisions for our kids. Parents will remain in control of their children's education. Stay safe, everyone, and God bless America.
Thank you, Mr. Nordman. All right, I want to thank all of you candidates. The League appreciates your willingness to answer questions from voters thoughtfully and candidly and in civil discourse with your fellow candidates. We salute your commitment to serving your fellow citizens and the students of the district by running to serve in this office. Thank you. And if I may say one more thing, thanks to everyone in the audience for your thoughtful questions and for spending this evening educating yourselves about the candidates and for your engagement with democracy. Thank you for keeping our democracy thriving. Everyone, please get home safe. Thank you all, and good luck.